All right, everybody, and we're live. Welcome to the California and Mr. Biffles Show. Hi, Alan. I was just about to send you a message and let you know that we are live. We are here today with a special guest, somebody who's got 40 years experience in Buddhism, spirituality, and the nature of reality shifting. This is Vaughn Galt. Did I say that correctly?
Yeah.
Excellent. Would you like to introduce yourself and maybe tell us if you can let us know like your name, your background, and maybe a little bit about the fact I believe you're an author. So I'll give you the floor.
Yes. First of all, thank you so much for bringing me on your show and sharing this message with your audience. So I'm so appreciative of that. But basically, again, I'm Vaughn Galt, and like I always say, I'm just a normal working mom. I have a normal everyday IT job here in Seattle, Washington. And what kind of got me thrown into this area is I'm 40 years old, so I've spent my whole life studying Tibetan Buddhism and learning how to be a conscious manifester of my reality and working with parallel realities, manifesting through consciousness, through that tradition. So I'm very familiar with my own personal Mandela effects and working with the reflection in the mirror of my reality and manifesting from within my own inner well-being. Now, aside from my 40 years of working with parallel realities for my own life experience, about 20 years ago, I started to follow different prominent monks like the Dalai Lama and other prominent monks in the tradition as they were going into academia and providing themselves as a resource to get research information about mindfulness, consciousness, meditation studies. And so as I was going into that, I was studying different research material that I have been gathering and being familiar with through the academic background in consciousness and how you change your reality. And one of the things that I did was into energy healing research because there was a lot of prominent doctors here in the West that was also tapping into the gamma ray frequency of the brain and tapping into energy healing and coming up with their own energy healing modalities. And so I'm familiar with energy healing and using it from like Qigong and, and other Eastern modalities, like Reiki and so forth. But from that aspect of the research, I got into QHHT, which is quantum healing hypnosis through Dolores Cannon's method. And I've been doing that for the past 5 years. And from my hypnosis private practice as well, I've been getting the same type of information, further substantiating the information that I am familiar with from my 40 years of Buddhism and my 20 years of studying the academic research from these different studies. And that information is coming through from all these different ways, saying the same thing, which is that we are moving into the fifth dimension. The earth is ascending into the fifth dimension. And the people who are awakened and working on leveling up their level of consciousness, ascending up the levels of consciousness, will likely move into the fifth dimension with her and have an easier time manifesting in that reality. For everyone else, they will go to the reality that is a fit with their frequency.
And that's really interesting because I've told a few people about this. I have a pre-life memory of the Mandela Effect and that we would be coming here for the Mandela Effect. Before I even had any idea what it was, I just was given this message that I would be coming here and reality would be changing and other dimensions would be leaking into this one and that kind of thing. And I thought, as somebody really pragmatic, like I also used to be in internet technology, like in SEO and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. I thought I wasn't a spiritual person. I thought it was crazy. I'm like, all right, everybody, here's this pre-life memory I have. I think I'm losing my mind. But it really kind of lines up with what you're saying, because that is happening now where people are like, man, they're seeing glitches, like they'll look at somebody's in the living room and then the next minute they'll look behind them and they see them in another room. You see a lot of that on Reddit and stuff like that. Has anything like that ever happened to you, where you've seen like teleporting items or anything like spooky like that?
Well, see, all the time. And I've had that for the most part my whole life, and I thought it was just me. But one thing that I never, ever forecasted was going to happen was I did not expect to have everybody else have Mandela effects.
Wow.
So, you know, I was always the one that would just kind of just play it off when I have a different memory than other people, and I would just play it off and go along with it. But now that everybody else is starting to have their own personal changes, not just necessarily Mandela effects with logos and labels and big things, but they're having their personal ones, which is the ones that I find more interesting. And I get clients come in through my hypnosis session wanting to know how come, you know, their sister who broke their leg on one leg in this reality has the opposite leg broken.
Wow.
How come their mother-in-law who fell on the bush and hurt her ankle, you remember that memory and it's happening again the exact same way where you tell her, hey, don't go there. And she did the same thing. You're like, what's going on? Is this like a glitch? You know, people looking at their kids' PTA or their sports teams and looking at one set of people and their same set is in the opposite section of the bleachers wearing the same exact thing. So those are fun. Those are fun. I laugh at those a lot. It's like the universe can't decide.
Oh yeah, and you know what? I think a lot of people come back to this too. There's a lot of Christian people in the community, and I know everybody has their different orientation, but like in the Bible, it said all things would be changed, and you said that there's like deep roots of this in Buddhism. So like I think we're finding all sorts of stuff. And then I had, as before, when I was completely agnostic, I had my pre-life memory that called the Mandela effect. Mm-hmm. So you're saying reality shifting is something that is in line with like Buddhism.
Yeah. So let me explain. So my background. So I was raised Laotian. I'm raised Buddhist, and Buddhism is all about consciousness. It's all about working on your inner well-being. And when you change your inner well-being, you change the greater reality, because the greater reality is just reflecting back to you the matching parallel reality that matches your frequency. So what in Buddhism, and Buddhism is about 2,600 years old and is an offshoot of Hinduism. The Hindu Vedic text, the Vedas of Hindu, is 7,000 years old. It's from the Red Vedas, is a section of the Vedic text, and that the Vedic texts also in Hinduism talk about parallel realities, manifesting parallel realities, and the way in which you manifest parallel realities in your personal life is you have your personal awakening. And so in Buddhism and in Hinduism, their definition of an awakening is one who recognizes that they are the user in this hologram, and the hologram is just mirroring back a matching reality. So when you become aware of yourself and you become aware of the greater reality, and that it's just a feedback loop to you, then you become a more conscious creator. And when you become a conscious creator, then at that point you can work on ascending your level of consciousness, raising your frequency up to higher and higher levels. And there's actually a mental health doctor, Dr. David R. Hawkins, who spent his lifetime, he was like the #1 mental health doctor in New York at the largest hospital there during his practicing years. But he spent the rest of his life after his medical years studying the different levels of consciousness of people. And he would just map out through his kinesiology study the different levels of consciousness that different people have. And you can actually, in this form, go up to 1,000, which is reaching an avatar status, like or Buddhahood, like Buddha, the first Buddha, Kuan Yin, the female Chinese Buddha, Yeshua, or as the West would call Jesus, Shiva. I mean, all these great avatars throughout history who have achieved it, but not very many people will reach that status, but everybody's working on that. And at some point they'll get there if they want to. But that's really what it means to ascend up the different levels of consciousness. But the first thing is to have your awakening, your personal awakening, that you are a user in a hologram that is a feedback loop to you. So if you want to change the reality around you, you have to work on your inner self, because you don't change anybody else. And just like they talk about in the Vedas of Hinduism and in Buddhism, they always have art that mirrors just different versions of themselves. In these traditions, and they've proven this in science as well, with thousands of double split experiments in science, that this is true. Two atoms can be the same exact atom split up and put into different places, in different spaces. And those atoms will still communicate with one another and talk to each other, even though they're in complete different spaces. So what that means is that we are all made of atoms, and we exist in multiple timelines, in multiple parallel realities. We have multiple versions of ourselves. And so does everyone else. Everyone else has different, kind of like Sliders, the show Sliders. We have different versions. You have family members have different versions. So depending on your personal wellness and the inner health that you're working on, whatever frequency you are radiating at, you will go to the reality with the set of people in your life that are of that frequency. So if you raise your level of consciousness and you emit a higher energy field, you may go to a parallel reality and be conscious of that reality. And your spouse might be a little bit different, or a completely different person, like they act like a completely different person. Your mother and father may have mannerisms that's completely different from how you always known them. Because in that reality that you're existing now, you are experiencing a different type of people.
Yeah. And I think, you know what, I do see a lot of what you say, and I recognize a lot of what you say. And I think that there's a lot of validity in it. I do have to wonder though, there's a lot of really good people, spiritual people, God-fearing people in this community. And what do you say about those of us who put out good and seem to get the mirror image instead?
What do you mean mirror image?
Well, like the mirror image, when you look in the mirror, it's opposite. So you see yourself, but opposite. So when you're acting like in ways of like light and good and whatever, you get taken advantage of and treated poorly.
Okay.
And it's like you step to the left, I step to the right kind of deal. And I know a lot of people are noticing stuff like that in the effect as well. So it's like you feel like I'm not sure if what you're saying is with it seems kind of fractal, right? Like we're having like this fractal experience where things are spinning off of like our essence and our behavior and our frequency.
Okay. So there's two answers to that, because you kind of touch on two different aspects. So and there are Harkins, if you follow his work and other people's work, will attest to this as well. Everybody has a different energy level, okay? And if you are radiating at like a 400 or 500 level and you are engaging with people who are of a lower frequency, they don't see the greater reality that you see. So they just see you at their level. And at their level, they're seeing an opportunity to take advantage of you. At your higher level that your energy is radiating out at, you need to be a little bit more self-aware that not everybody is in the same mindset that you are. So don't be so easy to give away all your pearls.
Right. And there are a lot of really good stories through the past about that, is don't throw your pearls to swine.
Yeah, Yeshua said that too. Like, watch in one of his sermons, watch them and see what they do first before you give all your pearls away. Buddha said, stay in the middle ground. Don't give just stay in the middle ground before you step forward. And there's a lot of these great advice from different sages throughout the eons and even today, where you need to observe people and how they are and see if they are of integrity before you take their word for it that they're going to pay you back, you know, kind of thing. So you have to be mindful of your own situation and the type of people you are dealing with, because some people are living at a different level of consciousness than you are. And so they're not seeing abundance, but they're seeing lack. And they're thinking in a survivor mode.
Yeah.
So you have to be aware of that. The other thing you touched on as well, I think, is that, you know, how come if you're doing all these wonderful things, you're not getting wonderful things back? The thing is that when you have your awakening and you're working on leveling up your level of consciousness to match the frequency of Earth, what is happening is that in spiritual work, everything comes up for you to address. So if you have old issues in the closet, you have little demons that you haven't dealt with, things in the past that you've shuffled away and you never fully dealt with it, as the Earth raises her frequency, every single time she goes through new spikes in the Schumann frequency, every time she does more spikes, what she's doing is the Earth is the biggest amplifier, okay? And we are responding to the biggest magnet, which is the Earth. So when she has these huge spikes in the Schumann frequency, what happens is all of the negativity will amplify. All of the positivity will amplify. So when they started doing this consciousness research of the Heart Math Institute and the Global Consciousness Project at Princeton University, they put these, I'm not sure if you heard about them, but they put these random number generators all over the world. I think when they started, they had about 70 in different parts of the world, and now they have more. And what they found is that when, like animals, when like people behave much like animals, we start getting anxiety and panic attacks, and we start getting restless hours before a natural disaster or a big heartfelt event is going to happen. So just like when animals feel anxiety that there might be a impending earthquake, they start scattering. We do the same thing. And so what they found in the random number generators all over the world is that by mapping out the heart resonance of people all over the world, we are connected to each other and we are connected to the Earth. And we can predict events that's going to happen hours before it happens because of that connection. And so when the Earth does her peaks up to these different hertzes, what happens is it amplifies, like they looked in history to see, you know, when the Earth does her shifts in frequency up to different hertzes, what happens in history? And what they found is at these peaks, major wars and issues happen. At the same time, humanity has had a renaissance in science and medicine and different things.
And that, sorry, if I can just stop you there really quick.
Mm-hmm.
That's a Mandela effect for me, because what I had spent my time on was psychology, and I was very familiar. I even owned a frequency oscillator. I was very familiar with the Schumann resonance, and the Schumann resonance had always stayed, the heartbeat of the Earth had always stayed a consistent 7.83 hertz, and it never changed. There was no wars going up and down. It was always the same. So it's really interesting that you say that was like that either in your timeline or your experience, or that there's background data for this, because for me, A, there were no data blackouts, and B, it was always 7.83 hertz. It was never 7.86. It was never 7.5. It was never, 100 like it has been. It was always 7.83, never wavering, always that. So,
so when I was following the Global Consciousness, because I started a project in 1998, and it was always, like you said, 7.83 for a very long time. And then around 9/11, it shot up. And, wow. And they're going, whoa, what's going on in 9/11? And we found out 9/11 happened. And then around and then different events around the world, it shot up again in those areas. 2014 and 2017, it shot up again. In January, with the Women's March, it shot up. And then in January of this year, she went up to 50 or somewhere around their hertz. And so what that basically means is this: when we're talking, how does that affect the Mandela effect and your glitches in the matrix? What basically happens is you have to take it like you understand TV. So a regular TV is about 24 hertz per second. So 24 frames per second, an old TV. So you can watch the changes of the frames, or you can catch up with it. But when you switch TVs to a nicer, newer TV, you get 60 to 100 hertz per second, which means that the picture quality changes so much faster. So you can't really change and follow the picture quality as it changes because it's moving so fast. So what this means in terms of Mandela effect is when the Earth goes from 7.83 hertz for a long time, and then it shoots up to 15, then it shoots up to 30, then it shoots up to 50, and on up in these different events. What's happening is the picture quality is changing so fast that you can't quite follow the changes in real time as you used to. And I used to be able to watch those glitches and warps in and warps out like I used to. And now the only way that I know that a Mandela effect happened is when all of a sudden something new in my reality exists that I don't remember seeing before.
Okay.
That's how you know you had a shift into another parallel reality, because all of a sudden a tree in your neighborhood that you've been living in for a long time is there, and it was never been there, and it looks like it's been there for a very long time. All of a sudden, the house that was not there before is now there.
And that's very strange. And one of the things I noticed, and I got to ask if this happened to anybody else. So I'm living in Phoenix, and in my neighborhood, it was a very middle class neighborhood, kind of like a Spanish neighborhood, and there were cars that had been there forever. And then when these shifts started happening, a lot of the cars shifted into my favorite kind of cars. So like next door, there'd be like a Harley, and then an 80s beater, and then like a really distinct like neon 80s beater, like, or early 1993 like sedan. And then there would be next to that, there would be a completely new Camaro convertible, like
great,
the kind that I drove, and then 3 more Camaros. And I'm like, nobody can afford these here. I was the only person who at one point was renting one of those, and then all of a sudden there's like 4 of them on my block. I'm like, something's going on here.
Let me ask you something. Do you think it's a coincidence that the reflection in the mirror are all things that you love?
I'm not sure I understand what you're asking.
So reality is a mirror. Reality is feeding back to you your frequency. And so the fact that something changed in your personal frequency in the way you see things, and now you're in a different reality, and it's feeding back to you are things that you love to see.
Yeah, it was really interesting. It was stuff like that, and like entities and creepy stuff and like horrifying stuff, and a lot of supernatural stuff that I'm really hesitant to talk about because it's so kind of spooky. It's out there.
Go ahead and talk about it, because obviously if it's coming up in your reality, it's for you to clear.
Well, I saw orbs, I saw shapeshifters, I saw like Alice in Wonderland kind of stuff, like stuff in my environment shrinking and growing. And it sounds like I have schizophrenia. So I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, but it was definitely a trip. And what was even weirder about it is the people around me would see the same thing, and they would be like, this is just stressing me out, Cali. Can we go get drunk? Oh my God, this is so stressful.
I want to go back to sleep.
Oh my God, I'm stressed out.
Yeah, and for some people, waking up is just too much for them to handle, so they want to go back to sleep. Mm-hmm. And that's fine too, because some people will never wake up, and some people don't want to fully wake up. They want to go back to what they know. They want to go back to their comfortable existence of the pattern that they are familiar with. And that's their personal journey. But the thing is that if it is coming up in your reality, one of the things that I get a lot with my hypnosis clients for QHHT is that a lot of their phobias are coming up, because again, the earth is amplifying everything. So a lot of the phobias are coming up so that they can address it. A lot of their personal issues are coming up so that they can address it. Even a lot of the scary stuff that they've been scared of, like demons and hell and all these other kind of freaky ghost kind of stuff that they've been focused on their whole life that they're scared of, is coming up for them to address and resolve. Because you can't take those lower frequencies to the fifth dimension.
That is so interesting too, because the same kind of thing happened to me. Like, I was terrified of volcanoes, and the next thing you know, Arizona's full of volcanoes. I made sure there were no volcanoes there before I moved. I made sure of it. And I made sure there were
all these volcanoes in California too.
And I made sure that there were no bot flies either. So that was my research. I'm like, unless I'm living by the ocean, I don't want any bot flies and I don't want any volcanoes. And then all of a sudden, Arizona is full of volcanoes, and I'm pulling like a fly larva out of my leg. And I was always terrified of them, to the point where I wouldn't move somewhere that had them. So they moved to me. So what was your spookiest thing that happened from this? And I'm going to ask the chat as well, you guys. Has anything that you're terrified of manifested in your life in the last like 4 years?
Yes, please. And I'm so thankful that you bring this up, because it's a good thing that we're not fully in the fifth dimension yet, because things manifest so much faster in the higher dimensions. And so if we're manifesting so much quicker and we haven't quite addressed our fears, we'll be manifesting our fears of just be chaos. But so you're getting the opportunity to deal with your inner demons, whatever it is. But for me, one of the things is I used to watch, like all the horror movies growing up. The 80s, you watch the horror movies. I used to love that stuff. Even though I'm Buddhist and I don't really believe in hell and demons, they do a really convincing job in these movies. And so as, the awakening ceremonies of many indigenous cultures and also Buddhist awakening ceremonies in 2011 to 2012 were happening. They were closing out the last cycle of polarity and ushering in the cycle of unity consciousness, which is a 5D unified consciousness where we see the oneness in everything and each other, instead of seeing separation. So one of the things that came up for me was that I was getting my fears, such as, little demons, little hellish, little apparitions come up. And I know about consciousness, and I know that this is an issue that I have to deal with. So the only way that I know how to deal with this so that it doesn't follow me is to just deal with it straight on. And basically, I gave my own personal phobias a Dharma lesson about consciousness, about creating your reality, about you can choose to be something else than this. And those little creatures that I manifested in my dreams that would have nightmares, they would sit there and listen to the Dharma talk. And then they would be like, oh, I think I'm not going to go scare people anymore. I think I'm going to go do something else. So all of a sudden they're gone because I blessed them. So you don't have to, for some people who are really afraid of demons and hell and all of that, if you understand the nature that none of that really exists, and this is just a manifestation in your mind, you can address it and you can clear out that phobia.
But when you're staring at it and you can take photos of it and other people can see it, even though it's not like going to hurt you necessarily, I guarantee you it does exist.
Well, it does. On my Facebook, I actually have a small photo album of ghost pictures.
Okay.
And, there's my dogs following me around in my ghost pictures. There is, I went to the Empress Hotel in Vancouver, Canada, and there was the Empress ghost in her bonnet and outfit just smiling at me. So they do exist, but they exist in different realms and in different dimensions. Cool. And they are having their personal experience as you are having your personal experience. So just like you get a little bit tweaked out when you get a glimpse of them in your reality, they get a little bit freaked out that you see them too.
That's interesting that you say that. So other people in the chat are saying yes, you know, I've had experiences like this, and other people are kind of on the same page as me. I try to keep posted on positive things because some of this stuff is too dark. I don't want to manifest anything bad. Other people are saying, you know what, it's too personal. I'm not going to share it. So I'm really glad everybody is here. I'm going to do a quick shout out. We got Friendella's, our flat. She's my girl. So we got Unimatrix, PG2424, and Gainers here. We've got Singeman, Alan Hallman. I know we've got some more people in here earlier. Unimatrix, Ace McLeod. Brian Stabley was in earlier. I don't know if he's going to be back. Preliminal is in the house. Yeah, so thank you for being here. And if you guys have any questions, Sean Becker is here. If you guys have any questions for her, please post them in the chat, and we will address those.
Yeah.
Where do you think this Mandela Effect thing's going? Where do you see this in the long run?
Going to the fifth dimension.
And what is the fifth dimension? How can we explain this to people?
Okay. So it's not like a lot of people think of the fifth dimension as a 3D way. All of a sudden, they're going to quit their job. They're going to have to do nothing at all. And it's just going to be hunky-dory, heaven on earth. That's not how it is, okay? In Buddhism, they call it the Golden Age. In QHHT, with Dolores Cannon's work, the practitioners call it the New Earth. It doesn't matter what you call it. It's basically a change in energy. So when we moved away from the cycle of polarity, of seeing separatism, and moved into a new age of unity consciousness, what we do is we've changed the energy in which we see things. So now we see unity, now we see oneness, now we see the greater reality, and we're being more conscious manifestors in this greater reality because we see a connection in how everything circles back to reflect us. And so when you change your perspective on how reality is, then the actions start following. Then you start living your word. You start you trying to be more integrous in your work and in your everyday life. You start not just saying random things, but you are more conscious in what you say and how you say it, because you know it's going to circle back to you. You see the full circle. And so that's really what is changing. Is we're changing to unity consciousness. We're changing the energy. The energy of the planet is changing to a higher frequency. And so our reality is going to manifest to us much faster. And if you're a conscious creator in this reality, you can create things through synchronicity much faster, much more at ease. But you have to work on it. Okay, so let me give you an example. Synchronicity is going to be part of your everyday life. If it isn't already, if you're part of the awakened, it's going to be part of your everyday life. And synchronicity is typically, events that seem related, but they're not related. In Buddhism, synchronicity is that your soul groups and your angels are working together to make connections for you. However, you have to discern if you want that sign or not. Okay, so like if you're working on a specific issue here and you're awakened and you're trying to be a conscious manifester and you're working on the things that you need to work on, somebody else over here may have the solution and you guys will switch off and trade solutions to help each other. But your soul groups see the greater picture, so they're going to find some kind of way to connect you guys together. And so people who are in this path will start seeing angel numbers to remind them in the receipts, in the the driver dashboard, in just all over places. They'll start seeing angel numbers to remind them, you're on the right path. We're here for you, cheering you on. You'll start seeing reality is mirroring back to you. So if you're working on trying to have a better relationship with your spouse and you're arguing about a specific topic, you might go to the store and the couple right next to you are arguing about the same exact issue, but they made up. And so it's showing you that you can work it out if you try these or that ways. So
Hold on. There's somebody knocking on my window. Can you continue with this?
Yes.
I'll apologize.
So guys, synchronicity is going to be your best friend, because if you're living in this path at a higher frequency and you're doing the work to better yourself, like in my tradition of Buddhism, we use the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path to address our abundance blocks, which is basically a block energy in whatever it is that we're working on in our life. So if you're working on addressing that and try to find a solution and try to work through it, your angels and your guides are seeing that you're working to it. You're working to get to a better place, and you're willing to do the work. You're willing to seek the solutions. And so they're going to help you through synchronicity. You're going to go somewhere and something's just going to fall right in place. That's going to give you a discount exactly when you need that discount. You'll pick up the phone and your friend that you haven't spoken to will call you and say, I was just thinking about you. I happen to have extra tickets to so-and-so concert. Would you like to come? And you happen to have that day off of work for some reason, but it works out for you. So different things will just kind of start falling into place. And it seems like it shouldn't relate, but they do relate. And that's synchronicity. And this would be part of your everyday. And so every day, what would typically happen is, as synchronistic events fulfill one aspect of your day, you'll just get to a point where you're just saying, thank you. Thank you. Oh, this is awesome. Thank you. Oh my goodness. Thank you, Lord. Thank you. I needed that right there. Thank you. So all you do is say thank you all the time. And when you're in that constant state of gratitude and being thankful for all these different synchronistic events, that because you're doing the work in your path, you change your brain frequency out of beta and you go into a higher level of consciousness, which is gamma. And they found this in meditation research in studying thousands of Buddha's brains. In meditation, many monks go through a gamma wave frequency, which is a higher level of consciousness. And that's where you can change the matrix. That's where you can change the hologram. That's the wave in which energy healing happens, is in gamma. When you're doing things that you love, like art, like music, like meditation, like gardening, any kind of activity where you stop the monkey mind from thinking, that's gamma. And so when you live in this higher frequency, in this age of unity consciousness, and you see these synchronistic events and you're just being thankful for every single little thing that's coming into your way as it's happening and getting you to the next and better level of your experience, you are constantly radiating out gamma waves, which will send back to you more and more positive things. Because remember, Earth is an amplifier. She's amplifying what you are. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and that's really interesting. When I had a lot of really kind of tragic things happen in a short period of time, and it's interesting because Alan Watts, he talks about the Joker, and he said that if you are to become a Buddha, you have to become a Buddha kind of without giving notice to it, because if you do that, your karmic creditors are going to come knocking on the door. And that's where you hear about all this kind of terrible stuff happening all at one time. For me, it was, getting beaten, locked up, losing my house, everything I owned, like pretty much like that, all in a short period of time. And, they had the wrong person's name. It was a mistaken identity. It was like all this stuff. And it didn't make any sense technically. But then at the same time, when I was on the run from these people, I turned it into a party trick. I would be like, okay, you guys make a list of items. I can go find them within a 2-block radius. And it didn't matter what it was. I found a sealed PS4 in the garbage with the receipt. Just weird, crazy. And within a 2-block radius, I'd just be like, tell me what you want. I'll go find it. Somebody would be like, I want a ladder and a linoleum and a barbecue. And I wasn't stealing things. I would find them either in the alley or on the side of the road. And it would take me 15 minutes. And I would just be like, okay, I found everything you wanted. Here's that tent. Here's some power tools. And it was like a party trick. I couldn't even believe it.
Yeah. And people are like, how do you do it? What you if you just get to the constant state of higher energy, what will happen to is you're magnifying more of what you are. So things will just naturally just kind of fall into your place. It's a very smooth way of living.
Yeah.
You know, because your angels are going, oh, she's on the path. Put this there and let's go there. You know, so it's a, you know, you'll happen to go and get tickets and events that just happen to be right at the time when they have a sale or a promotion, and you're spending 75% off, whereas everybody else is paying 100%. Or you get it for free, or you know, like my husband, he plays in a band, and he was playing at a hotel, and on the break, one of the set lists was an 80s musician that he just really loved. That person sat at the bar at the hotel, so he got a chance to meet one of his favorite people growing up. You know, so if you're just focusing on your inner work and your inner wellness, and you address all your little dark night of the souls, all your abundance blocks, then you radiate at your natural level, which is a high intensity, high frequency individual. And as a high frequency individual who has addressed all their abundance blocks, so now you don't have any negative abundance blocks weighing you down. Like, you worked on your issues with your family, your boyfriend, your, you know, whatever the situation that hold down your energy. Once you clear that all up, and it's going to come up for you if you haven't addressed them all, and you still have some repressed anger on certain things, it will still come up for you to show you this is what you need to clear. Once you clear all of that and you get into a pattern of just clearing all of these abundance blocks, what happens is your constant level of energy is just always going to be high and radiating. And then what's going to happen is your life, just like what you said, is just going to be a series of great things happening where you don't even try. It's just magnet. It's just attracting it to yourself. So it's a really, really easy way of living, and it's the gift. It's the gift that the universe gives to us. We just have to be a conscious creator in the fifth dimension.
And all right, Alan says, I want a box filled with $8,000 to $10,000 and $100 bills, and I want it in 15 minutes. Find it within a 2-block radius of yourself. So I never really messed with it like that necessarily. I would just be open to it. So like, people would like make lists, and I'd be like, oh, I'd find it, and then I would just be like happily surprised when I would find it right away. And you know, like, there was a concert I wanted to go to, and somebody on the street walked up to me and gave me a ticket to it. And I was like, oh, I know who runs that, blah, blah, blah. But I didn't have a phone. I didn't have the internet. And they're like, oh, here's a ticket. I couldn't find a way there at the time, but you know, it was still interesting.
You know, the thing I also want to address about attracting abundance into your life by being a higher frequency individual is that a lot of people have to redefine their definition of abundance. They think that they have to be the one that attains it, and it's not true. Okay, so let's say something that you want to experience is you want to experience maybe driving a really nice boat down the water on a beach house. But many people think that they have to buy that boat, they have to buy that beach house, they have to do all the work to attain that. But what if you have friends or family that have that boat, that have that beach house, that they're not able to participate and enjoy, but they give you the keys to use it anytime you want? Isn't that the same thing?
Yeah, and you know what? It really is. Ace McLeod, he says, it's a true tip. He says, it feels better to give gifts to a grateful child. The more you open up to receive, the more God wants to give. Yeah. He says that he's killed a series of good luck simply by thinking that it was too good.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't think that you're not good enough.
And Ace says this proves we live in a dream. In a lucid dream, you can find things easily like that. Change the scene.
Americans say that all the time.
American dream. Yeah.
Native Americans say that all the time, that we live in the dream world, and many people are dreaming the nightmare.
Yeah. And it definitely seems like a dream to me. I mean, a lot of what you're saying is really interesting, and I think it seems like you find answers in one direction and you find them in the other as well. Preliminal says great insights one after another. And he said, thank you. So
thank you. Thank you.
Ace says that you're really woke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ace also says that synchronicity is a mechanism of the Mandela effect. What do you think of that?
Yes, synchronicity is a tool. So the Mandela effect, in short, is just realizing that something is different from your reality that you previously remembered. That's all it is. And so it's a sign that you're in a different parallel reality, and everybody here is a parallel version that matches your frequency. So if you work with synchronicity, what your angels and your guides and your soul groups are doing is picking elements in that reality that fit into what you're working on next. Okay. So like I paint, and in the back of my paintings, I will sign created with wow. Okay, created with wow, and I will sign my name, and then I will go and get lunch, and I will have this is so funny. I will have a billboard on a commercial billboard drive by that says wow. So,
yes.
Okay. It's like 1-800-555, wow, with an exclamation mark or whatever. I'm like, okay, well that's interesting. So those kind of little synchronistic events is kind of they're your spirit guides and your angels and soul groups just reflecting back to you. Hey, we're here for you, and we're working on the next best event for you. So,
and it's so strange. I remember when I was seeing a lot of this stuff for the first time, I was outside and I was just watching reality shift in front of me. And then I looked up and I saw that the letters right in front of me in big giant letters, almost in like Disney font on this building, said, imagine the possibilities. And it was just so strange.
Yeah. And it happens quite, it's funny too, because, I will notice, oh, that billboard's a different color than it was before. Or, I will ask, hey, whatever happened with this bank that used to be here? And they would be like, no, we've always been here. We never changed. Like, oh, okay. So I get a lot of those. Okay, I'm talking to a new version in a new reality. I need to ground myself in this reality so that I could exist and carry on with whatever my story is in this reality. So you have some of those grounding events where you have to re-ground yourself, and you kind of have to reacclimate whenever you do whenever you realize you're in another reality. And like you may talk to a friend who has no recollection of a conversation that you previously had, because this person has a different history than like you remember, or like they remember of you. So you have to kind of, do a little bit of grounding and kind of go with the flow. I've had people in my own personal Mandela effect where they've had less children, and that's an interesting one to navigate as well.
That's scary. That just freaks me out big time.
Yeah. I had somebody who, when I spoke to them, I said, where is your son? And they said, what do you mean? Because they only have 2 daughters. And the picture that they always have up of their family had 2 daughters and then a crack on where the son used to be.
That's just scary. Like, part of me, like, I do have to wonder, I'm like, is reality satire in a sense? Like, are we like experiencing like some form of satire? Like, it is called, have you ever noticed that like the word earth has the word art in it?
Or isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, and it is called life, right? So the word earth has the word art in it. And I just want to remind you guys where we're living. We live on a what? On a, apparently, I mean, we used to be said that we lived on a
planet?
Yeah, a planet.
Yeah.
It's planned. A planet.
Oh, that's cute. I love that.
Yeah. So
you're seeing it, yeah.
And I think there's hints everywhere. Like, we used to say the Lord's Prayer in school, and it says, "Our Father art in heaven." Like, he does art. Like, he does art. He art in heaven.
Yeah, we're all his conscious. We're all conscious creators, and we're all like the thing that you have to understand when you are in this path of awakening and you're working on being a conscious manifester in the higher dimension and working with the energy of the higher dimension after you've addressed your old abundance blocks. They're no longer holding down your energy, and you're working on, you know, higher and higher levels of creation for yourself. The thing that you'll come across, that I've come across, is you need to start learning to balance all the peaks, because there are no valleys. It's just peaks and peaks and peaks. So now you gotta, okay, now I gotta balance. I got all this good stuff coming in my way. I'm doing the work. I'm not sitting around waiting for it to happen. So I'm doing my part of being a conscious manifester. Now I have all these great things. How do I ground myself and balance so that I can have the full experience on this journey or that journey or this, you know, project that I'm doing? So that's the new thing that many people on this path will struggle to do, is not really struggle to resolve issues and problems, but struggle to balance all this good stuff. It's kind of the opposite of what we've been taught our whole life. So
can you elaborate that on that a little bit more? Like, it's just, I guess, like, it does overwhelm me that there's so much in so many directions. Like, so much things are different. So many things are changing. Like, I mean, especially with your career and stuff like that, or with things shifting. Like, I used to do visual identification and archetypes. So I could look at someone's face. I knew exactly who they were. I did everything based on the golden ratio mask. And I'll show that right here. And it doesn't matter anymore, because the golden ratio mask doesn't fit faces in the same way it used to. It used to fit the Mona Lisa perfectly. It doesn't anymore, because her face is different. So this is the golden ratio mask. And I analyze personality types based on the way that their facial structure would relate to this mask. But then almost all the faces changed in the reality around me. How am I gonna do anything with that? Like, you can't. Like, my basically 20 years of over 40 to 80 hours a week, that's not my job anymore. That's, you know, like, what am I supposed to do with that? That's crazy.
Yeah. So what you're supposed to do is stop evaluating people based on 3D terms.
Okay.
And start communicating on a level of energy.
Yeah. It's like, well, I like that though. I was good at it.
Yeah, I know. It is really hard, because we've been working our whole life, you know, in 3D terms, and now you mean that most of the stuff isn't applicable in the higher dimensions?
Right. And it's not like everything has changed. Everything has shifted. It's bizarre.
Yeah. So you need to you're going to have an easier time if you're a conscious manifester. And it's going to rely, not just one modality is going to work for all the different journey that you're having. Like, you know, like I said, I was raised Buddhist. I've had 40 years of it, but I use some of the Vedics of India in terms of my understanding. I use energy healing. I use Reiki. I use Qigong. I use Kung Fu. I use a lot of science. I use all these different modalities, and it's like a bag of tricks. And when I need it, if I'm working on something where maybe there's a car accident here, a car accident there, I'm cutting out of time, the kids need me here, I'm like, okay, what do I use? I'm using my breathing techniques from yoga, you know. So there's, you know, you use the different modalities that are available to you in the appropriate time and place, and don't box yourself into one tradition, because you're going to get into situations that will force you to expand yourself in order to get through that situation.
So how do you
open-minded?
Yeah, definitely be open-minded. It's just interesting when, for example, I'm going to play this really quick. I'm just going to mute your mic for a second so I can play this. Hold on. Go in here. Oh, here we go, guys. Sorry about that.
Just the film Sex and the City.
Okay. Finger in a hole plus building. Message. Sex in the City. Wrong. Bitch, you're wrong. That was clearly Sex in the City. What the fuck? Sex in the City. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Message. Sorry, guys.
All right, guys, I'm gonna unmute you here.
It was sex and the city. The city was the fifth girlfriend.
So it was Sex in the City for me, and then it was for that guy too, because the first guy who came on, he said Sex and the City, but I remember Sex in the City.
No, I remember the fifth girlfriend was the city of New York.
Crazy, because I watched every episode, and it was always Sex in the City for me. I you know, and it's so interesting because a lot of people are like, no, but there's so much residue. Like on Futurama, I have residue where they call it Sex in the City. Mm-hmm. This guy called it Sex in the City. I think on Simpsons they called it Sex in the City. There's sketch comedy calling it Sex in the City. So it's definitely really weird. It's like, are we coming from different realities? Like, what is going on? So strange.
Some timelines are collapsing. Some timelines are splitting. Right now, we are able to see Mandela effects and have this contrast, comparison things with people, just because there are many people who are still deciding which side of the spectrum they want to radiate at. And so as a lot of things in their personal life, in their relationships, in their careers, in their politics, in their home environment, etc., as a lot of these issues come up, and a lot of polarity come up in their life, so that it forces them to address them. They will decide for themselves who they want to be. And from that decision on all these different events that come up in their life, it will take them to a different resonance, a different frequency. And so you are able to see these changes because many people are still making those decisions. But as more people make the decision to go further into the fifth dimension, and not let a lot of things hold them back, these people will go into another reality with Earth. And as that world becomes more energized, it will split off from the rest.
Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. I just want to make an announcement real quick. You guys, we are taking callers. I'm going to take, if that's okay with you.
Yeah.
All right. Anybody who wants to come in and ask some questions, I posted the link, so come join us. If you have any questions for her. I think it's really interesting because you got to wonder, I'm like, did people's like mental frequencies, like back in the day, thinking the Earth was flat, like actually turn it flat? It just took a while. Was there some lag on that? Like...
I don't know that I haven't really studied that. So I can't really comment on that one.
I was kind of joking, but not really.
I have another book project. I'm actually like, okay. One of my blog articles from 2011 to 2012 on the Ascension Earth and the splitting of reality. Mm-hmm. It's on my Facebook, because I tested on my Facebook from 2011 to 2012, and you can still look at it. And a lot of those were shared, thousands of times and rehashed all over the internet. But it's also on my website, Merkaba Chakras, on the blogs there. But I'm now going back through, and I am putting it into books, rewriting it in layman's terms. So for people who've never come across this material, they can pick up the book and they can follow and really understand from the very get-go. And so it's actually turning into a 3-volume book, which I'm hoping to publish later this summer. I may publish the first one and then, go through the other 2 books. But it's basically Buddhist mandalas, 5D awakening with sacred geometry. And I go through and explain sacred geometry from all spiritual and religious traditions as being the same thing about enlightenment. And I trace it all the way back to 13,000 years ago.
Okay, that's really interesting. I'm going to ask you a question about this. So at the shift, when he talked about, I would say when we were talking about Ace, Ace talked about that eclipse that happened in August 2017. And yeah. I woke up, and the next day, my best friend's eyes went from brown to green.
Are they pretty?
Yeah, they look beautiful. He looks so handsome. But we went and we found all his medical paperwork from back in the day, and it all said his eyes were brown because he had to get a physical every month. And it said his eyes were brown. I'm looking at him. Dude, his eyes are green. I'm like, all right. And my vision changed substantially. Like, I could see without my glasses on for the first time in my life, but something really weird happened. I feel like the world I was in before was a lot more HD than this one. And it's almost like everything, like the color scales, like I did a lot of photography, I've done a lot of Photoshop. The color scales in this reality seem so different. Like, it's almost like when I look at light gradients, everything looks more pixelated now, where before everything was a lot smoother transition. And if I don't have my glasses on now, when I'm looking at lights, they turn into sacred geometry, which is obviously that's the way I'm supposed to see it because it's without my glasses. But before, I couldn't function without my glasses. Like, if my glasses would fall asleep in my sleep, like someone would have to come over to my house and find them for me because I was like functionally disabled. Like, I would feel my way to the bathroom, you know?
You know, I totally get you, girl. I think this reality is a little bit slower than the other reality because I sent my books to a book editor, and my book editor and I had this 30-minute discussion on where did the comma before which and the comma before because went. Because in this reality, you don't put a comma before which and because. And we've been doing it for so long. And now all of a sudden Grammarly says, no, you just keep on going over the sentence. And you can start sending because and. And we're like, that doesn't sound right. When do you start a sentence with a because or an and?
Oh my gosh, it drives me crazy. Okay.
I know, like
drives me nuts.
Grammar in elementary school?
I just stopped caring. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I started noticing professionals like talking with like 5-year-olds, like, or like somebody who never used a phone, or like a 90-year-old. And I got to the point where I just stopped caring. I was just like, wow. I mean, I used to speak in full sentences and like have like decent syntax, but why bother? These lawyers are speaking in like text to speech. I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. It drives me and my editor bonkers.
I bet.
Because, you know, I've been taught in my other reality that you always put a comma before because. So Susie liked the cat, comma, because it was her favorite. Or Susie wanted the pen, comma, which is on the table. But now in this reality, there's no comma.
It's really on. I've noticed a lot of things like that, spelling changes. We got a question from the chat. Rolly R wants to know if you notice the changes in the Bible.
I do, and I've noticed a lot of those, and
especially the ones that go "and" at the beginning of a sentence. They it's all over the Bible. These sentences are starting with the word "and."
I tell you.
Oh, I'm losing my mind.
I tell you, the English grammar. We are watching English grammar divulge.
Oh,
I don't know what's going on with English grammar. My book editor and I just kind of go. We're just like, oh, we just throw our hands up. We're like, we don't get it. We don't get it. But yes, I've noticed the changes in the Bible. But I don't talk too much of the Bible. I leave it to other people who are very, very more familiar with the Bible than I am. But when they want information about Buddhism, they come to me, and vice versa.
But you don't need to be any kind of a genius to if somebody's like read the Bible, like everybody knows the lion and the lamb, like it's just common, right? And one of the things that popped up, because you mentioned the syntax and the grammar, was in the Bible specifically, and in English, I noticed like yeah a lot, and verily, like it'll be like and a sentence will start with and then it'll go yeah, verily, and just a lot of words that don't need to be there. And I'm just like, if we're manifesting this, why is everything getting dumber? I know.
Earl, you are talking my language. I don't know. I don't understand it, and I just think I'm trying not to be judgmental by saying, God, this reality I think has divulged.
You know what? God was judgmental. It says that in the Bible. He's going to forgive you, but God himself is judgmental. And I'm not.
Things that you think are so common sense are not common sense, and so you're like,
right.
They have this concept in Buddhism called like Kuan Yin is the famous female Buddha, and she's known for the Bodhisattva journey. And the Bodhisattva journey, and you know, everybody, you know, will eventually make it to Buddhahood where they get reabsorbed. They let go of the game of polarity. They let go of their
terrifying. Sorry.
Yeah, but they let go of their attachment to creation itself. And at some point in the eons, they may get shot back out into the game to help people for different things, like the Earth is ascended to 5D. We need people to help. So you may be shot back out to help with the ascension of Earth, which is what I get in my QHHT sessions. But anyways, the reason why I bring the Bodhisattva journey is the thought process behind the Bodhisattva is people of higher frequency will get brought into the world of lower frequency to help raise the consciousness and help people further get to enlightenment. So maybe seeing these grammar changes that don't make any grammatical sense to us is a clue that we have gotten shot back into a lower reality to help pull people who were so close up into the other reality, just to give them a second chance. And that's the concept that many Buddhists are looking at right now, because we did not like when we did the 2012 awakening ceremonies, like all the indigenous tribes, like the Native American Council Elders, the Mayan Council Elders, the Easter Island Council Elders, many Buddhist monasteries all over the world, including the Dalai Lama, all these indigenous tribes did the 2012, 2011 awakening ceremonies. Some people did it a little earlier. And it was just to close out the cycle of polarity that they've been waiting thousands of years to do and usher in the unity consciousness, the higher energy of the fifth dimension, because Earth is moving to the fifth dimension. And we're entering in the galactic age of humanity. What nobody really expected, and we just waited for Earth to have her jumps in frequency so that we can, move into the higher levels. What nobody expected was that many people were going to be given a second chance because they were so close. And maybe these weird nuances that we're noticing where we're like, this seems backwards. This seems like it's an obvious no-brainer. Maybe these are our clues that we got shot back into this timeline to help these people raise their frequency. And then as it raises its frequency, it'll get realigned with the appropriate timeline that we're supposed to be on.
Well, here's some theories and here's some food for thought. So I've wondered myself, but then I also, looking at technology now, I don't know if you've seen the stuff that's come out with like simulation, deep fakes. Like the Mandela Effect to me seems like a giant scale deep fake. Like with deep fake technology now, say I want to turn you into Nicolas Cage, I can do it. No problem. That wouldn't be an issue. Just from this video, I could turn you into Nicolas Cage. I would be having this interview with Nicolas Cage. So from outside this reality with really advanced technology, it would be really easy to say, okay, change 99.8% of reality. So this person now has this person's name, but leave maybe 0.2% residue or 0.1% residue. And these changes could be happening. We could be living in a simulated universe, and it's not necessarily mutually exclusive from like Buddhist religion or from Christian religion or from anything like that, because it could, it could go hand in hand with it. It's really, really interesting to think about, because I think about it this way. If you're thinking about like people in lower realities and maybe they don't deserve to go higher, I think that's bullshit, dude. Like I look at people going to jail and being punished and like hurt, and I'm like, that's fucking bullshit, dude. Who wants to do that to anybody? Like they should be given 100% compassion and 100% love and 100% resources. And like, what do you mean they have to stay behind and suffer? I mean, ooh, it gives me goosebumps. It makes me angry. I'm like, I wouldn't treat anybody that way.
So everybody's getting the hologram that matches their frequency. So you're getting your own personal experiences are matching your frequency. Now you might be looking at the mirror of somebody else's reality, but that's their reality and their life journey and their journey that they're going through for them. And if you do past, future, and parallel life regression, like I do with QHHT, I get a lot of clients that regress to understand, why am I going through this very severe issue in my life? And it is made known to them that they chose some of these difficult decisions to understand different things in their life. So let me give you an example. I had a client which I keep in touch with. She came here to understand why would I manifest a lifetime where I have to deal with 5 generations of incest?
Yeah.
What is the point of that?
Right.
And she went through, and as an adult, she's 60 now. So she went through, and it was made known to her through different lifetimes that she was trying to work out different issues with her soul group. And she saw that they were just children passing on conditioning from generation to generation, and nobody had the courage to stop the conditioning. And so when she saw that, she was able to forgive and let go of the anger of what they were doing to their kids.
And it's really interesting. I did hear another theory. Is that life is really boring because everything is like perfect. So we create realities like this that are kind of like cartoons and come here to overcome it and be heroes and be warriors or be truthers. And it kind of reminds me of like, like in cartoons where like there'll be like a conspiracy theorist and there's obviously aliens and he'll be trying to tell everybody, he's like, whoa, look, dude, a spaceship. And everybody will be like, you're crazy. And like, that's kind of like, I feel like that's kind of like the joke of this realm. I don't know.
Yeah. There's a lot, I laugh all the time about this reality and I'm just like, okay. So I try not to get too caught up because I might switch into another one tomorrow. So I try not to get too caught up.
Okay, here somebody brought up earlier. Okay, Anne is saying why Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage is the most. People were talking earlier in the chat about patterns in like the names of Mandela Effects, and earlier we talked about how Earth has the word art in it. How life is called L-I-F-E, like life. And so it's based on like a lie. And we're talking about word patterns. Well, some of the word patterns in the Mandela Effect are really distinct. So I brought a couple up. So here is Dolly. And if you break this words down, it's do I lie? Do I lie? And then it says be and then Ra, which is another name for God. And then it says C. So it's like, do I lie? Like, is this reality a lie? Or if you look at the shape of the D, it's a C and an A, and an O and an L make a do. So it's like, see, I do lie, right? And it be God. So like, this is effect of God. Or like with the Lindbergh baby, it's another one that says the lie. Like, it's a Mandela effect. And the Lindbergh baby is another one with lie. Or if you look at the Berenstain Bears, well, what did the Berenstain Bears do? Well, what's something really big that deep fakes are responsible for is AI. Well, look at this. It's the Berenstain Bears with AI in it. Berenstain, S-T-A-I-N, or all these tails, T-A-I-L. And there are a lot of patterns like this. Have you seen any of them personally yourself?
Yeah, I'm familiar with these ones. When I go grocery shopping, I see Febreze or Febreze. But that was just like, I went to the grocery store when I first saw Febreze. I was like, what is this, a bra? Febreze? Do I put this on my bra? Or but then it changed back to Febreze. So I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, the videos are funny. But yeah, I've seen some of those in the grocery store. The personal ones are the ones that really kind of, take me for a tailspin at the grocery store. Because I'm like, oh, this is interesting. Or like Jif, I would like go and try to buy Jif, and then it would just be Jiffy. And like, here's Jif. I'm looking. They must have come out with a new version of peanut butter. So I'm looking for a new version, and the clerk will be like, no, that's what it is. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll just get Skippy then.
That's where it gets weird, because that one I noticed in my early 20s, and there was Jif and Jiffy in the grocery store at once.
Oh,
so yeah,
yeah.
So here's a deep fake of Nicolas Cage, and as you can see, Nicolas Cage is turned into this little girl in Sesame Street.
It looks wrong.
Right. It does look wrong, but it's just showing how somebody can go into something after the fact and change the video the same way that, like, you know, angels would be able to change reality from outside of reality and kind of affect everything, because they're not just affecting one screenshot, like, you know, like a photo, if you can Photoshop somebody's face on top of something, right? They're not just affecting that. They're affecting like the whole video. Like, this is Nicolas Cage through the whole thing. Like, the AI makes it so it changes through the whole thing. So if you looked at time in the same way, if somebody wanted to edit everything throughout time, if you said that you work in IT, so you're familiar with algorithms and classes and all that stuff, right? Mm-hmm. So, you know, if this, then this in an algorithm, right? So if somebody can like write a programmed algorithm essentially, or speak it into existence the same way it says life is spoken into existence in the Bible, then you could change everything with like a simple script. Change this, if not this, in this percentage. What do you think of that?
I think people need to start focusing on their personal Mandela effects.
Okay. So why focus on the person? Aren't they all personal for us? Like, I mean,
well, the personal ones are more real and they're not deep faked. If your sister broke her foot on one leg and now it's on the opposite leg, then that is a real change in the
right. And that's what I'm saying. Is I'm saying, what if these real changes are influenced in the same way that like computer code can be edited, but like by angels or by God or by like reality? You know what I mean? Right. So what if your sister is like an angel in disguise? Like, a lot of times I think in Buddhism, I'm not positive because I only know through Alan Watts, but he talks about people being in the know. Like, there are spirits and there are humans around you that aren't actually humans. They're actually like angels or interdimensional beings. And you think they're one person, but they're not. So they could break their leg on the other side, but they might be in on it to wake you up to like the multidimensional nature of reality and give you this human experience. What do you think of that?
It's all possible. And, you know, the funny thing is when I do my regressions, I do get people who have parallel lives in the spirit world, and they're coming here as a human being to help raise the level of consciousness of everybody else around them. So at this time, in terms of helping the earth ascend into a higher frequency and helping people who want to go there with her learn to live in a higher frequency and be a conscious creator, there are people coming in who've had parallel lives as Pleiadians, as aliens from different dimensions, from different galaxies coming in and having a human incarnation. There are starseeds and indigos, really old souls that have had multiple lifetimes who haven't incarnated for a long time coming in. There are people who've had different jobs in the spirit world, such as the great library librarians, who typically work with Akashic records, are coming in, having lives here. There are life workers, or life planners, people who help you plan your lives. Like, I've had many Buddhist monks growing up tell me that I was once a life planner, or in the other side, and I don't know what that is. And they said, you know, it's just basically you're somebody who helps people plan their lives before they incarnate. And when I finally got a QHHT regression, I've got a couple of them before I started doing it as a modality for myself as a private practice practitioner. That's exactly what I did. I was a life planner, which is kind of like a travel agent who's, you know, working for you to ask you what kind of excursions do you want to have, what kind of lives do you want to have, what do you want to work on your spiritual evolution while you're having this life. Okay, so here are the elements that help you achieve the experience that you want to have. So there's a lot of different types of people that's incarnating at this time to help with the ascension of Earth and some of its people.
That is so strange that you mentioned that. I want to welcome Suso into the chat. We're gonna get to you in a second, Suso. I just want to say that was part of my pre-life memory, was talking to one of those life planners and having a conversation with them. And I was like, oh, you know what? Torture me. Just totally torture me to wake me up. Blah, 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 blah. And I remember this conversation with them. I must be crazy.
What you say to your life planner? Because she probably said, you know, she probably gave you some sound advice of, hey,
They're like, don't do that. And I'm like, no, kill off my family. Just do whatever, blah, blah, blah. Just torture me. And they're like, you don't want to do that.
Your counselor. Just don't listen to your counselor.
They were like, that's a terrible idea. And I'm like, I don't care if it's a terrible idea. They're like, it's a really bad idea. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to go there anyways. I made up my mind. And these days, I'm just like, oh man, if you guys can hear me, can you get me out of here? I'm like, done. I'm like,
you should have listened to your life planner.
Yeah, I should have.
All right. Okay, it's free will. It's okay. You can fix it in the hologram.
Nah. Suso, welcome to the chat.
Oh, hello, California. Hello, Vaughn.
Hi.
I could have asked many questions throughout
Sure.
the thing, but one hasn't really come up. It may have kind of touched on it. Solipsism. How do you feel about Solipsism in the respect that everyone's in their own dimension? Us three can be talking right now, but we're each having three totally different conversations.
What is it? Solipsism? How do you spell that?
It's not the first time I've been asked. I think that's the first time I pronounced it properly, though.
Solipsism is like it sounds. SOLP, right?
Yes, SOLIP.
You're alone. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So there's really only one person here, and that's the universal one mind. And it's basically just having a conversation with all the different facets of itself.
But I'm like only me. I can tell you I'm only me. I'm distinctly me. I'm not anybody else. Like I can say that 100% because when this topic comes up, most people will say like we're all one. I can't say that. I'm just me. What about you, Susan?
You're just you right now.
Oh.
When you pass on, you become the greater reality of everything else.
Yeah, well, that's a whole nother conversation. Passing on.
No, we're talking about right now.
Is anybody in? Some people in chat.
Right now, yes. So let me just give you a brief, and we'll go into sacred geometry. So in Buddhism, and they have this in other spiritual artwork as well. Everyone radiates a very high energy field around them, like a torus field or like a flower of life. So in the artwork, you have this big circle around you, and then your brain also emits a very high energy, not as much as your heart, but it will be like kind of a smaller circle, like a halo. You see this in Buddhist mandalas or in many other artwork as well. So everybody has a halo around the head and a big aura field. And inside it is the person. So we are all traveling through different parallel realities in our own Merkabas, in our own vessels, our own sacred geometry orbs. Now we are having our own personal experience, and that's why you can manifest things that are a reflection of you. But it's more fun to play with other people and have other people engage with you. And so if you see it like the flower of life, where everybody has this nice little perfect hologram bubble, and then you're intersecting with somebody else. Their circle will intersect with your circle, and it'll make a Vesica Pisces. Okay, these intersecting circles, and everybody else is making intersecting circles that are making this nice, really big flower of life. Because it's just more fun to play with other people and share the hologram and come up with new games together.
Nice. I like that. I do feel, California, that I am me, but am I only me? Recently, I have a different outlook on consciousness, as far as it's not my consciousness, but I am connected to consciousness. And everybody's connected to that just at different levels. So that's kind of where I'm like, well, okay, I could almost pull in anything I want here. I'm very aware of the shifts, if you want to term them like that. But at the same time, like you say, am I only me? Yeah, but every morning I wake up, sometimes I wonder if I'm not a different me.
Well, you had visions of your parallel lives.
I think I know what you're getting to. And you know what? That very well may be the case. Like, if we're gonna go like the non-spiritual route, it was 6 years ago, 7 years ago that they had intentionally deleted and reinserted memories in mammals. So thinking on a spiritual level and a grand level, you could wake up tomorrow and be a different person. You could wake up in an hour. You could blink your eyes and wake up a different person
with
and
all those memories and not have a clue. Although I do have memories from a timeline that I know things didn't happen.
Me too. I had a timeline where different people were voted into politics. So I just go with it because I never know what reality I'm going to get into next. So,
well, now see, there's also the theory that death is a catalyst. And in my book, I wrote about how I was impaled, and a week later, the heart moved. That's where I was impaled. And on the left side of the chest. Now it's in the center.
That's crazy. That's really
yeah. Well, you know, it's funny because I want a lot of that back. I want a lot of those emotions back when all those things were happening to me in 15. I know those things happen to me. The book reads like science fiction. I know those things happen to me.
Yeah.
But that death catalyst.
It's true.
I just don't think we die. I mean, you said something about passing on. I'm thinking, well, at some point I would imagine, yeah, we might pass on.
I know I really, really like gave it a good shot to end my life, like multiple times. I should be dead. My brother ran in front of a bus. Like, I think it really depends on who you are. Like, my dad's gone, my grandma's gone. Like,
in this reality, I would think from their perspective, they may not be gone from their perspective. They might just be in a different reality alive where they didn't die.
Well, not only that, they might be in this reality. And I definitely think that there are people who are what we call organic portals or walk-in souls. And on top of NPCs, like, there are definitely people. I know I've been approached by people. I know that they're the same person, but they're not the same person. They're in a different body, and they know it's me, and they're messing with me, and they know that they can jump bodies. And one of those people is somebody I know who's dead. And hold on a second, and I just got to switch microphones real quick.
You know, I knew somebody who had a brain aneurysm, went to the hospital, and came back a completely different person. New preferences, new likes in men, new likes in food, different speech, completely different. And all of her friends who've known her most of her life say she's a different person.
Wow.
You know, because this person used to always date black guys, and all of a sudden now she dates white guys. You know, just different. And so, you know, like I said in the earlier discussion, there's multiple versions of everyone in multiple realities. You are just experiencing the reality in which is your matching frequency right now. But your other versions and the other people are still existing in those realities.
Other versions of me.
Just into different experiences.
You mean other versions of me?
Yeah.
Do you really buy that though? Like, I'm not.
I do. I know there's nothing in it. I know it's there. It's like, I heard a good description, and you know, it touches on the simulation theory.
Right.
It was that it's there with all the other. I don't even know. I wish I was in my thinking properly right now, because this was something I was just thinking.
You know, I will say to you, my love, I had a couple of children between my first and my second child, and I had a couple of miscarriages. And my spouse gave me a holiday ornament with both their names on it. And we looked all around the house every year for those ornaments, of all the other ornaments, and they're not anywhere in the house.
Wow.
We know it happened.
That's the other thing I've heard. Now, I've heard many stories about things disappearing and reappearing and whatever, and their personal Mandela effects. And I've said from the beginning, you know, you can have a Mandela effect that nobody else is going to notice. You just can't prove it.
I know I could prove it before, though, which was interesting, because I know it's not like, okay, first of all, I moved to, I lost a storage unit. After I had moved, I moved states. I moved with only my vehicle. I moved with my buddy. And then all of a sudden, items started duplicating. So items that I had lost.
I love that.
That's awesome.
Items that I lost like a decade or 2 decades ago, or items from my childhood, like my childhood notebook with like the Ninja Turtles in it, showed up in my house.
I think that may have happened to me with a couple of CDs. I mean, I don't think I bought them twice. And I remember coming across a couple years back. I mean, before I was even into the Mandela Effect.
Oh, yeah. I lost a suitcase, a huge, like one of those really large suitcases that because they come in like different sizes. I lost this huge suitcase. I just unpacked it from a trip. It was sitting on the bed, and I came back, and it was gone. And my husband knows because he dragged that thing up the stairs for me with all the stuff. And we searched the whole house. It's not anywhere in the house. Nobody has it. I thought maybe I left it in my relative's house. Nobody has this huge suitcase. And when we moved, we're like, well, maybe the suitcase will pop up when we're moving all our stuff into our new house. Never showed up ever again.
Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy.
But what are we doing about this? I mean, from your perspective, we see the changes. We see physical reality is malleable. It shifts. It changes. And I like what you say about basically we can control it or manipulate it.
I've been giving it a good shot, dude. It's like water. It's like the more you try to control it or manipulate it, the more it slips through your fingers and turns to chaos.
Yeah. And I noticed the emotion, your vibration has a lot to do with it. You need to, if you keep these, and I had a very high vibration for a while, and things were happening for me, and I'm like, this is great. And then the vibration just died. I just went down nowhere, and everything stopped, everything turned around, and I'm like, wait a minute.
What did you change your perspective on? Did you make a change in your perspective on something?
Yes, I did. And just recently I changed my perspective back, and I said it to myself. I said, that's all I have to do is change my perspective. What am I doing? I know this. And I went, and the next day everything turned around. And the thing is, I know it can be stronger and more direct, and I try and keep things vague because that's why a lot of times the things are, well, I'm not creating in quotes properly because I'm just being too specific.
Exactly, brother. That is exactly right. When something changes so drastically in your reality and you want to know, okay, what did I do? What did I do? What perspective about something did I do different that may have contributed to this? And it usually comes down to you've had a shift in your perspective on something. You maybe saw somebody in a different light, then now all of a sudden they're a different person. Because now you're in a reality in which this person is much kinder and sweeter to everyone because you have forgiven how you saw them before.
Right. It had nothing to do with anybody else but me.
That's an example. Yeah.
I got that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's quite a few things that, it's interesting. It's just a different way of thinking for me. And because it's happened with a few things where all I really need to do is change my perspective. And then I have the question, well, what about those things that changed my perspective in the first place? Well, that's the past. That stuff's back there. It doesn't really matter, especially if I'm properly or doing it right to shift myself into a timeline where my perspective is the way it should have been in the first place. Don't even think about that stuff. Don't live in the past. Don't go back there.
Live now. Live one day at a time. The moment that you're in right now is the most important moment that you could do for yourself.
I don't want to be devil's advocate here, guys, but I was 100% in the moment. I had gone years and years and years without saying a negative thing about anybody and just 100% positive, no matter how bad things. People could beat on me. I'd just sit there. I'd just be like, do you want to talk about this? Did your mommy love you? Like, do you need a hug? Like, come on, guys. Like, and that's kind of issues. That's like kind of where I was at, where, and that's what they call Buddha mode. I lost all internal dialogue and my life just got more and more chaotic. Like I had my shit together, dude, through my 20s, my life. I've always had my shit together. And then the more like this Christ consciousness or the more Buddha like I got, it's just like in the Bible, it says like, if Christ suffered, so will you. My life just kept getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And yeah, I can manifest stuff. If I want to go find something in an alley, I'll go find myself a freaking like Juicy Couture bag and a Michael Kors course, which I did both recently, by the way. But I don't want that. I would just rather like not have all this drama. So recently I'm just like, you know what? It's got bad enough. I'm just pissed. So I get out my journal. And I've been like emotionally like feeling pretty down, even though like that's not even normal for me, but like it only gets to a certain point. So I just get out my journal and I just start writing out all the bad shit that's been happening to me. And I'm like, it's not fair. And I like throw a temper tantrum. And I haven't done this like pretty much in forever. And I'm throwing a temper tantrum and I'm just like, fuck this. Everything sucks, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden good things start happening. I all of a sudden magically have energy. Like I suddenly feel decent. My mom comes and gives me a bottle of wine. Like good stuff comes in the mail that got lost. Like what the heck is happening right now?
Accepted what it is.
So are we supposed to be going towards what we love to do? I mean, period.
Yes.
Just be happy.
Yes.
See, I just recently did a video on how we got to stop chasing happiness. I don't know if I put it up or not. Because we should just have it. You know, if you're always chasing it, you're not going to find it.
Inside.
So
the best version of you, live in the moment, accept this is what it is. Okay, this snake is a snake and this rat is a rat, and I understand that. I'm not going to try to change anyone or anything, and just kind of like water, just go with the flow.
I think that's it too, because I think not trying to change anybody is a big one, because they talk about karma like that, right? Like if you try and help people, people will try and help you, but it might not be in the way that you want or isn't aligned to you. And because even though if you actually help people, it doesn't matter because you might be getting help that's not actually help. I'm not sure how that works. I'm sure you know about that.
So exactly. So if you sometimes, you know, and Narcotics Anonymous, for example, is a really good organization, and these 12-step programs are a really good organization for this, for accepting things as they are. Sometimes you have to let people walk their journey in order to let them have their bottoms and grow. Because if you keep on helping them, they never reach their bottom, and so they can never grow and jump from that bottom. So if you love someone enough, you will love them enough to let them have their journey.
I like that. And that's that's part of it. It's still about you for me to let them have their journey. It's still about you.
It is.
But the bottom line is basically do what you want. It can be done. Know it.
I mean, what you want your own frequency.
But even when we get to that point, and I don't mean to play devil's advocate here, but we get to that point where we create exactly what we want. Then what? We got the white picket fence thing all over again, and we're all like bored. No, continue to create.
Then we create a horrible world like this one to fight ourselves out of again.
Yeah, right. We're just going to keep getting bored. As soon as we learn how to create, I don't know if that's the case. But.
I understand the draw of this horrible world, you know, reality thing. And, you know, it's like they say, and it's really hard to accept it is that it is. But in Laos and in all over Southeast Asia, like my mother does a lot of funding of monasteries and artwork.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of Buddha statues that are reclining and relaxful. And when a lot of Westerners go to these temples in Thailand or Laos and different parts, and they're like, why is Buddha so serene when the world is chaotic? It's because you know that in this reality, in this earth, this is the perfect planet in which everyone can work on the issues and they can address their karma and fix it so that they can, if they choose to incarnate into different worlds, not bring that over there. This is the perfect school ground.
I think this world is, like, in my opinion, everybody's entitled to their opinion. This world to me seems less like a school ground and more to like a challenge center. Like you come here if you're like a badass and like you have like
people see that earth.
You have like, I remember in my pre-life memory, they're like, it's a horrible place. You don't want to go there. You don't need to go there. It's just awful. And I was just like, no, I know what I want. And like, damn, I should have listened. And as for solipsism, what you were talking about was really interesting. Is somebody had said something to me, and it was weird. They had said that their God wanted all their people to find each other, and I found similar information around the same time that was really interesting, where with these timelines converging, we could have had Sophilism and or Solipsism, and then they all come together, and then we had all been on our individual paths where everybody in our life is an actor or like a walk-in soul, or like from the ether, or an NPC, or whatever. And now we're coming together, and the goal is to find each other. Like they say, life is a play, right? So those of us who have actual constructed personalities will be coming into the point or get fused into a reality where we'll actually be in the same space. Because how many times have you noticed that the way the universe works is you will be the smartest person you know. You will have all the information. You will be just on the cusp of that knowledge. You will be making those breakthroughs, and you'll be like, why can't I find a guru? Because there are certain people who just don't necessarily have that opportunity.
You're the guru. You're the teacher, my love. I'm a teacher. The best teachers are usually the ones who don't want the job.
Right? I want the job. Bring it. I'm going to go ahead and go. Let somebody else call, and I'm going to wave bye here.
All right.
Bye. Thanks for calling.
All right. You're welcome.
Appreciate
it. See you guys.
Bye.
Love Suso. He was wonderful.
Yeah, no, he was really wonderful. It was really great that he called. So I want to ask you about your books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can you tell us about your books?
Sure.
The links are in the descriptions, guys. So if you want to point down, the links are in the descriptions, right?
Yeah. So, you know, again, I'm a working mom, so I publish it when I get a chance to. And I have like 4 Buddhism books on docket that I have yet to go back and finish. Like one on female Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and just different areas. But I do have a published book on Buddhism, which is The Buddhist Guide to Manifest Parallel Realities, using the 4 Noble Truths and Eightfold Path in the Age of Consciousness. So that's out there on my Amazon authors page. I also, you know, write and publish kind of coloring book vacation guides for different vacations that I go on, like Hawaii and Barbados. And they're real excursions and real maps of the excursions that I've gone to. And I've gotten quite a bit of family or people, you know, email me, hey, I got that Barbados book, and me and my kids and my husband, we went there, and the tour guide was our 6-year-old kid who was telling us where to go from this coloring book, and we had a great time. So there's those ones. I had a dog and a cat cats that I adopted from the animal shelter, and I wrote a book, a coloring book with real pictures. Those are their real pictures. They are so loving, and people don't believe that that's really how they are. I said, no, that's their real pictures, and I could show you the pictures. I had it rendered into coloring books. And it's just to show, you know, adopt a dog, adopt a cat. They'll bring love into your life. And if you do become a pet parent, be a good pet parent. You know, so I've written those ones. And on the side, you know, I live here in Seattle. Everybody has a side hustle. They really do, because it's so expensive. So I, you know, aside from getting residuals from my books, I also do a wedding flower business on the side and take a couple of weddings throughout the year.
Girl, what don't you do? Oh my
I'm telling you, amplification. You know, my challenge is to balance all the good stuff.
That's awesome.
But I wrote 2 bridal bouquet books, and anybody who's ever gotten married and ever tried to plan a wedding and to try to figure out how to do flowers for themselves knows that this stuff can blow up in your face, and you can be at each other's, you know, throat before you even reach the altar. So they're really good buys. They tell you how to pre-plan your wedding flowers, how to design and make it. How to organize your wedding and plan so that you have a wonderful wedding. And this is the first venture that you do together as a couple where it's peaceful and you get a good result. So that I've gotten a lot of people who just love the Bridal Bouquets book, and it's really helped them enjoy planning their wedding. So
that sounds beautiful.
Yeah. And so now I am finally going back to like my key. The reason why I usually just stay a hermit. I don't really get into limelight because I'm not really interested in showing my face everywhere.
You're so pretty.
Thank you. But so but with my QHHT hypnosis sessions, I get people coming in who are starseeds and indigos, and in some of my sessions, archangels like Metatron have come through trying to pull me back into the space, to contribute and kind of help with the ascension process. And so that's why I reached out to you and others to get this information out there and just be available to clarify any things that people may have and just give a different perspective. Like, I have a Buddhist, Hindu, perspective on this from my tradition. So just a different perspective, because everybody's in the whole world is going through at different levels, different stages of awakening and Mandela effects, and it's freaking them out. And, somebody with one modality may reach out to them and help them adjust. But for other people, that modality may not help them. So maybe a Buddhist perspective or an academic perspective on the same thing may help them out. So they can freak out a little bit less and not go on a shooting rampage.
That's so interesting too, because Brian came from, people have been talking about going on shooting rampages with this. I've heard it from multiple people, and I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, seriously. Yeah, I need to come, like, I don't even, like, I'm like so accepting, but at that point when I don't even say anything, but like when people are talking about like going on shooting rampages, I'm just like, okay, well, I mean, there's nothing I can say. You're just, I don't know. I mean, do you need a hug? Like, what the I don't know, but
don't kill yourself and don't go on a shooting rampage because you're having a freak out session with your Mandela effects. Okay, so there's plenty of resources. Calm down, take a deep breath. You need to, obviously, what you know so far is not helping you with this experience. So you need to start doing research, and you'll find different modalities and different things that can give you your answers and help you adjust to this reality. And so anyways, my hypnosis sessions, and so I agreed, okay, fine, no problem. At first I didn't want to do it, but I agreed, okay, fine, I'll do it. But I'm going to do it so that it benefits me. So I'm repurposing and rewriting and updating all my blog articles from 2011. And I'm putting it into a 3-part book series, which is
cool.
5D Awakening with Sacred Geometry. And in that, I go over what sacred geometry is in all spiritual and religious traditions, going all the way back to 13,000 years ago. And I explain it with science and math and all these other things to show that all religions are talking about the same thing, and you can understand that through sacred geometry. So I'm finishing that, and then I'm working for the next 2 years. I'm collecting tribal folklores in Asia and the Polynesian Islands, and I am doing a book series, and right now I'm just collecting the folklore. So I speak to different elders of different associations and tribes throughout the Polynesian Islands and Asia, just to collect the folklore. And when I feel like I've got all the folklore around megaliths and pyramids, I will put it into my book, Pyramids, Megaliths, and Tribal Folklores of Asia. And then I'll move on to the next continent. But I do get people coming in from different continents to give me folklore, and I have to like table that, because what I don't want to do is publish something and I miss a very small tribe that may have a folklore that's very critical to the big picture. So a lot of the folklore that I'm collecting are about Lemuria and Atlantis civilizations. It keeps going back to that. So that's my project. That's my project right now, and I'd be happy to kind of talk about those projects. I do have a video about the folklores book and Buddhist mythology in my YouTube channel, Macabre Chakras, QHHT.
Oh, you guys, and the links are below. So please, if you haven't subscribed to her channel, check out her website, buy her books, do all that good stuff, and learn about sacred geometry and stuff. Because
you know what, we'll do a show on sacred geometry next, and I can give your whole audience a deep dive in sacred geometry. It will blow their mind.
Okay, that sounds really good.
The audience seems to like to be like,
Yeah, no, for sure. And like I know where they got like a lot of the knowledge from and stuff, because like I said, after I got these updates, I'll look at different light sources and they'll break up into sacred geometry and I could draw it and I recognize it. And it's like I'm looking at like some stupid like little like light or like a reflection of something, and without my glasses on, it's total sacred geometry. It's such a trip. So you'd have to, maybe I can draw some of them and you can tell me what it means.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd be happy to. I can create a PowerPoint, so it'll kind of show the different path, because I'm writing the book right now, so I have all the copyright images, and I can create a PowerPoint, send it to you, and we can go through each one. And I can explain, well, the Sri Yantra is 64 points in the Hindu Vedic text of 7,000 years old. Those 64 points are 64 points in DNA, because DNA has 64, which if you put into 3D, the shadow that casts from a Sri Yantra is the flower of life, which has 64 points of the flower of life. And yeah, I can go on and on. Before you know it, you're like, holy shit.
Somebody has a question.
It's all the same stuff. Everybody's talking about unity consciousness and consciousness. It's all the same stuff. So there should be nobody fighting about who's right or wrong in this or that religion. When you see and understand sacred geometry is in all religions, all spiritual traditions, and even all ancient archaeology going back 13,000 or more years ago, that stuff is cropping up then too. You'll see that it's all the same.
Everything seems the same. Everything seems to be coming back to the same point. One wants to know if you call the flower of life the life matrix.
It's the same thing. It doesn't matter what you call it.
Okay.
It's the same thing.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, that's crazy. It's all crazy. And I think like the Mandela effect is just leading us back to that same point, because no matter how many things change in the reality, I think the biggest message for me has been, okay, like one of the biggest things is I did notice slight differences, like when I broke my hand, but like I used to have distinct knuckles, like our bones, we have the same amount of bones, but they're in completely different locations. So I think that's one of the biggest lessons.
That's kind of weird when like you have your own personal Mandela effect in your body. You're like, where?
Yes, yeah, no. I have MRIs. Yeah, I have MRIs showing my body having different skeletal structure than humans have now. So, you know, it's weird, but we have like 22 bones in our skulls now. There used to be 2. So, but we look the same. So that's my point. My point is like all our reasons for why we have to really start questioning those, because like the terror attacks, our history is changing, and history has the word story in it. So like, you know, and our internal organs are changing and everything's changing, but we're functioning the same. So you got to kind of sit there and go, what is life besides the now, if everything can be any reason for any way and change in a minute? I don't know. It's weird.
As the veil thins and we get insight into our parallel lives, and again, you know, those schizophrenic moments that you were talking about earlier, those are just you having glimpses in other realities. And so that can really drive you crazy, because you still have to, you know, do your work. You still have to get up, brush your teeth, do all that kind of stuff in this reality. So, you know, maybe some grounding exercises would help you out so that you don't have those bleed through moments in different timelines that you're experiencing.
Okay.
So, yeah. Because a lot of people with schizophrenia in mental health hospitals have those things, and if they just do some grounding work, it subsides. So
you're cutting out a little bit. So I'm like not meaning to cut you off, but for some reason the connection is gone. So do you think like when I was writing in my journal all those things that sucked and blah 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 blah, do you think maybe that could have been like a grounding exercise to like ground me into my specific reality maybe?
Yeah. Journaling is always really good, because journaling is a technique in which you can just burn through all of your angst. And see and contemplate your issues. And as you contemplate your issues, you actually start letting go of the anger, and you start resetting your frequency. It's meditation. Does that make sense? So I don't know if you caught that one, because I'm not hearing your I think you're muting yourself. And now you're not muting yourself. Can you hear me? Now you're muting yourself.
I'm muting myself because I'm afraid it's I can't hear you, so I was moving around the room.
Oh, really?
Trying to find a spot where you weren't cutting out.
Yeah. So
there's a glitch in the matrix. I can't for some reason my my reception isn't working anymore because you're talking about something I really want to hear. What is going on?
Maybe you're shifting as we speak. So let me catch the other version of you up with this version about the journaling. As you journal your issues with whatever it is that you were having angst with, you are writing down your issues and what was disturbing you. And by doing that activity of writing down your issues with reality, you were contemplating and slowly releasing that stuck energy about, what you were experiencing. And so what you were actually doing is meditation. So, Cali, I don't know if I lost you or we're losing the connection here.
You still here?
Yeah. Oh, you're still there. I was just messaging you going, let's wrap this up because I lost you.
Yeah. Somebody has one more question and then we can wrap this up.
Yeah. And then we could do another one. If you want to do another one on going a deep dive into sacred geometry, I'd be happy to explain sacred geometry. Because I actually go into my tribal folklores and I go through the 13,000-year-old remnants of sacred geometry.
Totally. And I know somebody who'd be really good to have here to question you about that instead of me, because he's like, yeah. So Unimatrix wants to know, do you think we'd be able to control their own reality?
Yes and no. You can control, if you work on your inner work, depending on the frequency that you radiate at, and synchronicity, you can attract to yourself, good things that are supposed to be coming to you that you're working on. At the same time, there's a higher level at play. If you do hypnosis, or even in the Hindu and the Buddhist and other traditions that believe in reincarnation, and I found this through hypnosis as well, you have pre-planned certain events in your life that you are going to experience. So certain things, regardless of what you do, you're still going to experience those things. But how you get there, how long you stay in that experience is up to you. But certain things are going to happen because they were part of your life plan.
And that's so awesome to hear. It makes me feel better because I do remember talking about like the life planner with that before I came here. So
let me ask you, Cali, with your life planner, did you listen to any of her recommendations?
No. No.
There were your life planner. I'm telling you, girl. Ugh.
There were two of them. There were one.
I'm sure you needed two. I'm sure you needed two, and you both didn't listen to any one of them.
No, there was one on the left and one on the right, and there were several people who were making this happen. And then the people who were in charge of the gate had this basically like a list they were running through of all the reasons they needed to explain to me as to how this was a bad idea. And I'm like,
oh my god, you're so funny.
And I'm me. So I'm just like, look, dude, it's got to happen. I got to go. And they're like, yeah, but. And I'm like, you know what? Let's skip the formalities, dude. I'm going no matter what. So, and they're like, yeah, but, and here's why. And I go, wait, look, dude, you gotta, if something bad happens, you got to kill off my family. They're okay with it, right? Right, family? Yeah. See, they said fine. They didn't say anything that they didn't want that. So you're cool. Just, and I'm just like, oh my God. I like look back on this and I'm just like, well, that happened. Yeah. All my favorite people died. Okay. Yeah. I know. Well, apparently there's some reason for it. And obviously they're not dead forever because, you know, they haunt me in ridiculous ways where it's very apparent that they're here. Like, my dad will like hack my computer and change the producer name on all my songs to his name, even though he's dead.
Yeah. That sounds like your circle. That sounds like your soul group, and that pretty much sounds like the like usually when you talk to your life planner, they'll be like kind of like kumbaya and cozy and oh, what do you recommend? Oh, you know, there's a little bit of, you know, yeah. You're the opposite. It's kind of like we did the best we can.
All right, we'll wrap this up. It was really awesome talking to you. And yeah, you know what? I'm a stubborn person. And like, you know, earlier today, my mom said, well, it's not like that in heaven. There aren't people, you know, that are really aggressive and pushy. And I'm like, that's not what I remember. I remember being a dick then more than I was now. So I don't know what that's about. But
there's different, there's different types of people all over the place. And some like, okay, I'll tell you this. Be glad that you're not Hitler, because he has a whole council trying to figure out how to undo his bad karma that he created through the eons. Okay, so he's got levels of council to work with all the things that I'm telling you, that guy's got to make so much money and give it away for free for lifetimes in order to make up for things. So you don't have councils trying to figure out how you will, your next incarnation, how you want things. But you know, you always had some people who's like, I don't think I can handle this girl, she's not listening, and they pass you on to somebody else. And then they pass you somebody else, and you end up getting down to the guy who's like, the guy and the gal who pretty much deals with the most stubborn people.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and before this I wasn't a person. It was really weird. I was telepathic and I was like an orb basically, and you couldn't see. There was no seeing anything, but you knew where other entities were in proximity to you, and you could swap into a body at any time. It's very strange. It was very strange. It was like having a built-in GPS. So you knew where people were on location, but it was like built into your brain. It was so weird.
On the other side, you're connected to everything. You're one. So anywhere, if you think anything, you know everything. There's no mystery. Everybody knows your deal. So,
damn, that's invasive,
isn't it? Well, if you go into if you fully incarnate and experience the fifth dimension, and everybody's psychic and knows your deal.
I just want to go back to the third dimension.
You have your vibrator. Clean it out once in a while.
Okay, I asked my spirit guides where I lost my vibrator at.
How did I know that? Okay.
I just want to go back to the third dimension because I was special there and things were easy. Just send me back.
Yeah, you could try, but you're gonna get bored in third dimension.
Okay. Bored.
So now you gotta, but we're still kind of there. So as we get further into it, but when you get to the higher dimensions, you don't have to help people so much because they're there. They're already working on their being a conscious manifester. They know they have problems. They're working on it. They're not lying to themselves and keeping themselves stuck. So there's nobody to really help for the most part.
Yeah, and sometimes I wonder if we're like actual children, where like the beings who like we are helping in this life, or actually we're helping them at all, or if they're like soul beings incarnated to like let us like think we're special and fancy when we're not.
Like we're a contract. Like in some of my regressions with hypnosis clients, they contract archetypes. Like, I'm going to be your mean brother so that you can get up and kick my ass back for being a douchebag to you. So,
right.
You know, and then you do that, and then they become best friends for life in adult years.
It's so strange because, like, I got beaten on by, like, every guy I was with until I beat them back. And then I was just like, what the fuck? Like, why are these guys beating on me? I'm so nice.
Yeah.
And it said in my astrology, like right up in my Vedic astrology, it said, you have an aspect where men will beat you under this influence in this one. And I'm like, what the heck? That's a thing?
It's funny you're talking about the eclipse. I think you said the eclipse in 2017. My natal chart for a long time, I would go to psychic fairs, and I enjoyed them immensely. And they always read my natal chart, and every single one of them would say, I don't know what's up with your birthday, but your birthday falls, there's a moon and a sun on your birthday. A moon and a sun. And in 2017, on my birthday was the eclipse.
What?
Yep.
So your birthday is 8/8 basically, or in numerology, right? Is August 17th?
Well, no, yeah, on 2017, it fell into on my birthday. It was like, I think like the 20th.
What day?
20th.
August 20th.
August okay. 21. So it fell right into my birthday in my natal chart, and that's when the eclipse.
So your numerology number is.
I know my numerology
because I was looking,
but my natal chart.
If you were natal
chart.
That's really interesting. I was just calculating it because if you were born on the 21st, that would make your achievement number 11. So that's I
was born at 3 a.m. So
on the 21st.
On the 20th. On the 20th.
On the 20th.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Your achievement number is you're a leader then. So you're a leader.
What it is?
Yeah.
I'm the resistant leader because I don't want to lead.
No, your achievement number is that of a leader. So your achievement number is 10-1, I think, or 31.
Well, my son was supposed to be born on 8/8/18.
Really?
Yeah, on 8/8/18 was his expected birth date, but then he decided to hang in there for like another 2 weeks or so, and then he ended up coming up on 8/10/18, which is the Duran Duran Appreciation Day. Duran Duran, which is my husband's favorite rock band. Duran Duran. So he was like, oh sweet, it came on Duran Duran Appreciation Day, and he was playing in his Duran Duran tribute band there.
Oh my gosh.
So my son was born on Duran Duran Appreciation Day instead of 8/8/18, which is really funny.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Yeah, I was born on 3/3, so.
Oh, you're a master.
That's my achievement. My achievement number is to be a master. I'm number 11 for my thing, but my achievement number is 33. So I don't know. I don't want anything to do with that. Like, get away.
Yeah. The best teachers are the resistance ones. So they're like, oh, fine, I'll do it just because everybody else sucks so bad. Oh.
That's been my life. That has been my life. So.
That's usually how I get into projects, just out of default, where I'm like, well, why not this person? Why not that person? And they're like, no, it's you have the experience and the knowledge. And I'm like, oh, fine.
Right. I'm like, I'll do it because it's going to get done properly. And that's what I was bringing up earlier. I'm like, people are so conveniently like incompetent below my skill level that makes me so suspicious of this reality. Like,
just accept it. Try not to let it drive you nuts.
Well, no, it's funny though, right? Because I'm like, is the universe my teacher? Am I being kept in separate realities and people are more like advanced than me in certain areas? Because it just seems silly. I don't know.
Yeah, what I think it is, because Earth is one of the most difficult planets to incarnate in, and your life planners, we're right. Earth is a really hard. Are you sure?
I know they told me. They said stay away. They said don't go there. It's a bad idea. You shouldn't do that.
Yeah, it's like, are you sure you want to live in that city? That's so it's a very, very if you have the merit to incarnate into beautiful and better realities, and you choose not to go into those nicer cars, nicer realities because you think you're going to have a more wild ride in this one. Yeah, I can see where they're like, oh, why are you doing that? But at this time, Earth is going into the 5th dimension. So a lot of people from other realities and higher realities are incarnating in here. You think I would be here on purpose?
They had a whole book
with the comma going away before which and because. Me and my editor, because I want to. I mean, come on.
Why? What do you mean? Like, why don't you just start sentences with "and"? It looks so pretty.
You don't start sentences of "and" or "because."
No, every sentence you start with "and" "because," and then you like add random words like "yeah" in the middle of everything.
I think we're doing a Bodhisattva journey. I think we're just here to help raise the consciousness. I think the universe is going, well, you, and you.
Yeah, and I think things like that. Do you think it's possible that they put things like that into the Ascension just to see if we can like deal with it as a Buddha? Like, let's piss them off by like taking the commas away and like adding fucking ands at the beginning of sentences.
So the next minute, you and I will start every sentence according to English grammar with an and because. The next minute, tell me if that sounds like grammatical correct English according to Germany. Because the Biffles Show starts like that, and you want some colors in behind the words because that's what it's supposed to be, right?
Yep.
Because, right? Yeah. It doesn't sound proper grammar. It doesn't sound like English. It sounds like they took the lower form of English, somebody just learning English, and decided to make this the PhD level of grammar.
I read the Bible like obsessively because I was so concerned because I had all these Christian friends and they'd be like, I'm going to war for Jesus. And I'd be like, oh no. So I just like read the book over and over again. I'd be like, I have to figure out why they want to go die for Jesus and kill children. This is terrible. And like, I was like obsessed with
negative karma for yourself.
I know.
Okay, but all right. Before you start Xing yourself off and going through a shooting spree, just relax and go get a hypnotherapist practitioner, QHHT practitioner, or go do Kundalini yoga, sweat it out, go work out, go find a different modality. The answers are out there. But stop trying to push everything into a box, because the more you push something into the box, the more it will resist you. So.
Or they can give you a call and maybe do some like regression or like, blow off some steam, like have somebody to talk to, have somebody to go through things for, somebody that'll understand kind of what's going on.
Yeah. And the thing that's really interesting, I was talking to somebody else about this reality, is that this reality, a lot of people do not touch each other.
For me, it's the opposite. Like everybody touches each other and I'm like, ugh.
But that's because they're good with you. They like your energy. But for like, I have people, but I know other people don't touch each other. That's like a lack of intimacy in this reality. People don't hug each other. They don't, as a general that I've noticed, is they don't make eye contact when they talk to people, and they don't not actually present. They'll go yeah and talk on their phone or look at their TV and yeah. They're never really fully present. So people don't really feel a connection or like they're being heard. And people don't really know what affection is. Like I've come across quite a bit of people, even adults, not just teenagers, who like, yeah, I know affection and compassion is having sex. And affection and compassion and intimacy is not about having sex. You don't go through a hard time in your life and think, who's the last person I had sex with that I need to call and have a chat with because I need some personal, support with this difficult issue that I'm going on in my life. No, you contact the person, your best friend or whoever that you have a bond with. And many people in this reality are lacking those bonds with people in their lives.
Well, that's what's interesting is I had 2 of those bonds. Like, I'm like that kind of person. I'm like ride or die, like forever. Like, that's it. Like, I'm like a forever person. So
yeah,
my best
friends for lifetime. I mean, you my friend until I get in the grave.
That's right. And I kept my best 2 friends. One of them I met in 7th grade, and the other one I met when I was 14. And I lived with him even after we broke up. We were best friends. He always lived with me. He drove me everywhere. We worked together. We did everything together. Like, I had different boyfriends, but he was my best friend. So he came before my boyfriends. He was like my best friend. And like after that eclipse, the August 2017 eclipse, he's like comes in and he hadn't showed up, but like he just disappeared for 2 weeks. And after that eclipse, he walks in and he comes into work and I'm like, where have you been? And he like grumbles at me and then he puts his feet up on the desk and I'm like, dude, we got like $1 million motherfuckers we're dealing with here. We can't like, what are you doing? Like, you know, and he's just like, what? And then he like puts a like towel over his head and he falls asleep. And I'm like, this is not how we got $1 million clients. What the fuck is wrong with you? Get the fuck out of the fuck.
I want the other version back. I want the other version back.
I didn't even know about versions yet. And then he looks at me and he's like, who are you? And I'm like, what? And he goes, you're not her. And I'm like, what?
Oh, I had that with, you know, one time I had jumped to a different reality. I knew I had jumped to a different reality because the hedges were cut differently than I remember.
Ooh.
I saw my dog. I went and saw my dog. And my dog that I've had for a long time, who always comes to me, starts growling at me and trying to bite me. And I'm like,
no.
I'm like, what? I'm like, oh. So I'm like, you know, I'm dodging my dog. And then I like calm him down. And I'm like, it's still me. It's still me. Okay. It's just another me. It's still me. And then he calmed down and he licked me.
Wow. Yeah,
you know?
no, I couldn't. I tried to get them to calm down.
Yeah.
I tried to get them to calm down and lick me or just like at least be friends with me. But no, my best friends since childhood that I was talked to for like 8 to 12 hours a day vanished. And that's it. And I've been alone since. Yeah.
That's a hard one, man. I'm so thankful that that my childhood best friends are still in my life because I don't know who I would, you know, talk to about just random stupid things that I'm going through without them. So, you know, again, live every moment, day by day. Live the day that you are right now because you just never know who in your life may not be in your life anymore because they're in a different reality and they don't exist in the reality that you're in. So
I attest for that, man.
Appreciate the people in your life. Even that douchebag brother of yours. Just like, you know, man, you're not the best, but I still love you, man. I love you.
Yeah. And you definitely learn.
Yeah.
To appreciate people in a new way when they disappear like that. It's crazy.
Yeah, because they could disappear. They could disappear.
Yeah.
Or they may not completely disappear, but they're a different version than you.
That's more painful than if they died. I've dealt with a lot of people dying, and it's so much worse when they're still there and they're just not responsive to you and they're a different person. It's just like, oh my God. And it's horrible to say, but it's just like, I'm glad you're not dead, but it would be so much easier for me if you were dead. So it's like,
yeah, because then the memory of the version of you from before can still sit in my consciousness, but now I have to reupholster you in a whole different way, and you know, you just don't fit my storyline anymore because you're just a different person. You know?
That, and you gotta wonder, like, you're like, how much should I try to get you back? And like, and what do you mean? Like, they'll say things like, you're the different person, and I'm just like, are you talking backwards? Like, you know?
Yeah, it's a trip when you actually start becoming self-aware of yourself and the greater reality. When you become awakened and you learn to live in this path. And you know you're shifting into different realities because you see the effect through the Mandela effect in your personal life. It is rather trippy. So I totally understand people who are freaking out, and they, you know, I get clients who come for the hypnosis practice, and they went to the pastor, didn't work. They went to the family members, didn't work. They tried all these different things, it didn't work, and somehow they found me, and usually through angel numbers or some kind of synchronistic event, and they'll get a deep dive into their awakening, and this will make sense for them, and then they can go home happy. But like I said, if you have somehow woken up to the greater reality and all this is starting to freak you out, start looking outside of your comfort zone for answers, and you will find them. Because you're going to have to unlearn a lot of things that you learn because they don't fit in this reality.
Yeah, it's really strange.
It's a trip.
It is a trip, and I've got like one person or a few people who are Mandela affected who I've known from before, and like we're not necessarily like super close, but we've known each other, and I'm like, you're not the same you, and they're like, well, the main events are the same, and I said, okay, sure.
Yeah, and I get that too. I get that too. Maybe my spouse and I will talk, or I'll have friends, and they're like, they'll remember something like, well, this is something else, and they're on this path too, and they're like, well, I don't know what version you're talking about, but what happened? And I'll say this, or they'll say this. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I agree with that. That's good. So we just play it off and just kind of go with it. We just kind of roll with it. Like my spouse will sometimes switch a character trait. All of a sudden he does dishes, changes diapers, does all these chores. And I'll take it. I'll take it. Give it to me.
Keep those ones. Keep those ones. Yeah, for sure. That's so strange. I have to wonder if when my ex just all of a sudden started doing dishes, if there was a shift now, because I never thought of it that way. I was just like, oh my God, he's so much better.
I know, in all different ways. And you're like, how did you know that I like that spot?
Girl, you wild. Okay, let's do this again. And we'll do the sacred geometry. You just let me know when, and we'll set that up. So it was really great talking to you. You're a load of fun.
You too.
And you guys, please buy her books, check out her links, do a session with her. It'll be really helpful. As you can tell, she's a natural. So
yeah, I only do sessions in the Seattle area. QHHT is only local. But if you're working on your abundance blocks, my client intake form on the website, if you print that out and you fill it out honestly, you will uncover your abundance blocks that you have to work on, that you would typically bring to your practitioner to uncover. So you can actually start working through your own abundance blocks without ever having taken the 4-hour hypnosis session. You just have to be honest. And then in my book, The Four Noble Truths and Eightfold Path, that's another modality that you can apply into uncovering what your abundance blocks is. That's holding down your energy. And you could do that. I actually have a YouTube video. It's a whole over an hour interview on how to apply those techniques into different common abundance blocks that people have. And so you can apply that in your life, do it with yourself, do it with a group of people, and they can chime in on what you're not seeing correctly. And then you can uncover what your block is and start working on that. And just get rid of all those block energies so that you can be of higher frequency and start, radiating and having these fun conversations of how much better can it get, So yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Sorry, I'm not meaning to cut you off. It just cuts out. But yeah, no, I think how much better can it get? And like I said, like I've noticed other things too, where things I really want will just become massively cheaper. Where something that was like $100 will be like $8. And I'm like, that's not manifesting anything. But like, when did that happen? That's great.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. I remember like Coach purses used to be like $400. Now it's like $50.
Totally. And I did actually. Okay, this is what we'll close out on. I found a real Chanel bag in the box, like legitimate, real Chanel, the whole 9 yards, authenticity for $30 in thrift shop. So we'll leave it there. It's a $4,000 bag.
I was in a Goodwill and I found a Prada T-shirt.
Nice. You bought it, of course.
A Prada suit sitting in all the stuffed up suits.
I'm wearing a gold ring right now. Here's my trick. I found my gold ring. If you go to, when I was stuck, somebody like abandoned me at a Goodwill and I was stuck in there and they weren't there to pick me up and it was cold and I had no phone. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go check all the pockets on all these like cheap, crappy bags that everybody leaves. And I found a real gold ring.
Wow,
so in like a $3 bag. So
that's amazing. Well, maybe, in another episode, you can go over not necessarily Mandela effects, but Ascension symptoms. Those are always fun. Like, how did you have your ascension? What did you see?
Oh, yeah, we can definitely do that. Let's schedule that in. And is there anything else you want to mention kind of before we go?
Yeah. In my hypnosis sessions, I always get the same message from all of my clients from the Oversoul, the one universal mind that is in everyone. And so I put it into these basic messages that I always leave every interview with, which is the Oversoul wants everyone to know that you've always been enough. You've always been enough. And that to use all the gifts and resources all around you to create the life that you want to experience. And the spirit world, they will nudge you through synchronicity. So just look out for that and that you can do it.
Oh, yay.
Yeah, you guys can do it. Yay.
That is such a positive message, and I really needed to hear that. I know I teared up a couple times when you were talking, so I was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you can do it. You know, and shoot, they haven't seen what we've been able to create yet. So let's create something that just blows the socks off even ourselves.
I think that's coming. I really do. Like, I think that it says, like, you know, to enter the kingdom of heaven, you're going to be like a child. And I really, like, the more that it happens, the more all this stuff keeps happening. I feel like a little kid because I don't feel like I know anything. And I'm just like, wow, there are things and people out there who know, like, that know so much more than me. I don't know anything. Oh my gosh, it's so humbled, you know?
It's a journey. So anyways, from this life planner to you, girl, let's do another session.
Oh, shit. Okay. It was great having you here. I love you. I love everybody in this chat, everybody who hangs out. Kisses, and I will talk to you soon. Send me an email. Thank you for being here.
Bye.
Bye. All right, guys. Galt, that was so awesome to have her here. Thank you very much for that. She actually reached out to me on email, which was great. And she said, hey, do you want to do a show? And I said, yeah, I don't really do schedules or anything like that. And I said, oh, you know, but sure. I mean, I've seen your interviews before. They're great. So we pulled it together. Thank you, everybody, for being here. I'm just going to shout out the chat real quick and say who's been here. Read some of the comments. Patrick Roberts, our new timeline, says, awesome show. Unimatrix has been here the whole time. Thank you, man. And Unimatrix, if you want to email me at punkkitty@gmail.com and put Mandela Effect in the title, we can do a show. Your boy, Roy Boy, is here. And Gainer, love you, love. We've got Frandellas are flat. I'm like, I'm not wearing my glasses. I almost read Frandellas are fat. PHAT, people. PHAT. That's my forensic files, girl. Okay. Okay, let's see. Love you too, Cali. Thanks for doing this amazing show. It's been a little rocky lately, so this was a godsend. Girl, I'm still waiting to get that script from you in my inbox. I have not got it yet. And Gainer is trying to clap her hands. Frandellas are flat says, I found amazing things like that Chanel bag and gold in thrift stores too. The alley shopping finds are incredible too. Did you hear me say alley shopping? Because that's what I always say. I'm like, I'm going alley shopping, yo. I'm going alley shopping. My mom will be like, what you doing? She'll be like, I'll be like, I'm going alley shopping. I'll come back. She's like, got like new furniture. Found like a $250 end table, like on sale, like $350 end table. She's like, oh, that's so nice. I'll be like, I was alley shopping. Let's see. We got Unimatrix, Preliminal. Who else has been in here? We had lots of people in here today. And one. Meditation is a wonderful practice. A lot of the world's problems would be alleviated if more people were allowed to have quiet moments of thoughtfulness. Yes. And then Preliminal says, excellent show, Vaughn Galt. I watched you also on the Shane channel. And I did too. That was awesome. I love Shane. Christopher Millington says, OMFG. Okay. You have a sub in me? Patrick, thank you. Frandellas. Oh my gosh. I've been saying alley shopping before you knew how to alley shop, young lady. That is true. I just learned like a few years ago when someone knocked on my door and I bought something off of him and he found in the garbage. Yeah, and alley shopping is great, dude. I found so much good stuff. Like, I found, like Dolce & Gabbana, Marc Jacobs, Juicy Couture, NARS, all that, all new, all in the alley. Alley shopping #1. All right, guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe to my channel and hers, and lots of kiss. And yes, trash talking. Bye. Bye,